I know I will like.
I see. Well, like,
Okay, are we live? Are we live? Okay. Okay, good evening, everybody. Sorry we're starting late today. Sorry we're starting late today. We're gonna give a few moments to allow other people join. Can we get reactions on this to know if everybody's hearing me? Yeah, can we get thumbs up? Can we get thumbs up? Can we get thumbs up or some reaction so that we'll know that you guys are hearing me? Okay, yeah, I have a thumbs up, so I know I'm communicating. Okay, so since we're just starting, I'm just gonna give it, and we started late. I'm just gonna give a few minutes just to allow more people join us before we get going. Please remember, you can go ahead, share it. Since our last webinar, we discussed about having this class, and I promised you guys I was gonna come back and have this class, a full technical hands-on meeting to help everybody know actually how you can size your solar systems. So in this class, we've prepared 6 slides, just 6. So you can know you know it's just a very short class, but I'm hoping to actually show you on a technical level. Yeah, I'm gonna make it very easy so that everybody can be carried along. But I'm gonna show you on a technical level how you can size your system. Um, in this class, we're going to be giving an example and we're going to calculate it completely from start to finish, right? So that everybody, both the techie, both the technical engineer, and both the homeowner that just wants to know what the right size is for their system, so that everybody can be carried along. Additionally, I'm going to also be sharing some links. I'm going to be sharing some links so that you can go through and you can make use of it while doing your own calculations. So we're just waiting for more people to join us. More people to join us. Okay, so we have the audio back, and we are about to kick off now. We're about to kick off. Can you share the slide? So, like I told you, we only have 6 slides. Only 6 slides. We only have 6 slides, and after 6 slides, I would have been done. And at the end of our class, like I guaranteed you, you are gonna be an expert and you know how to size your system correctly. So in this class, you're gonna learn one, how to estimate. You're gonna learn how to estimate the complete total building load. One. I'm also gonna share with you websites where you can see estimated loads for different appliances. Then after we do that, I'm going to also show you how to calculate the battery capacity required for your home. So this class is going to be useful to you who have installed a solar system and you're currently having challenges. This class is going to be important to anyone who is hoping to get a solar system soon. This class is also going to be very important to anybody that is technically inclined and wants to upgrade their self. Please, I hope I'm audible. So if you can hear me, clearly, please just give a thumbs up so that I can know that I have an interactive class before I proceed. If you can hear me, just give a thumbs up so that I will know that we have an interactive class. Thank you. I have a few thumbs up. So, like I said, we have 6 slides that we're going to be going through to run down this class. So, I'm going to start with the first one. So, the first slide we have is why do we even need system sizing? That's the first question we're here to ask. Why do we need system sizing? So why? So why? There are two reasons. So in this class, I'm not about to. My aim is not to make it complicated. I want to make sure I carry along everybody. Like I said, there are a lot of people, different people on this channel, but I'm going to give you the technical knowledge, but I'm going to simplify it. There are two reasons why we need system sizing. One, oversizing wastes money. Nobody, absolutely nobody likes to waste money. Oversizing wastes money. So one, system sizing helps you get the right size to avoid oversizing, to avoid buying an inverter bigger than you need. I've met with customers and clients that tell me that they just want to power maybe just 2 or 3 ACs, and someone is recommending a very large inverter. That mistake, which will cost them extra, is a mistake that could have been avoided by the right system size. So one, oversizing wastes money, and two, undersizing can lead to problem. So undersizing is a major. Undersizing can happen in equipment used. Undersizing can be in the whole solar system. Undersizing causes problem. Undersizing causes problem. That's when you hear about fires and sparks and all those now. So undersizing causes problem, and when you are about to invest in a solar system, you want to avoid problem. That's the reason why you reach out to experts like us. And before we are quick to start talking about equipment or sizes, the first thing we always do is hear you out and then give you the right system size. So that's the first thing. So that you now know why we need system sizing. Then again, I'm going to have to go through the key components of a solar system. The key components of a solar system that are important in system sizing is the panels. So we're going to be learning about So now the three key components. Remember, there are many components. So any very technical person might want to tell me that there are other components I've not mentioned. Yes, there are accessory sizings. Yes, there are wire sizings. But the first initial three components that you need to know to ensure you have the right system size for you are these: the panels, the battery, and the inverter. Like I said, there are other components that need to be sized correctly, but the major components that are key to getting the right solar system is the panel, the battery, and the inverter. So now, what are the solar panels? So solar panels are, just in layman terms, they convert photovoltaic to power energy, right? So most of the time we're getting that from sunlight. So solar panels are those big panels that they put on your roof or on your carport, right? So those are solar panels. They convert light energy into the light. They convert light into energy. The battery bank is the reservoir. When I talk to a lot of my customers, I use the analogy of a bucket, right? The analogy of a bucket. Your battery bank is your bucket. So every day when the sun comes out, the tap is turned on, right? And the tap is left on throughout the day. So every day you fill up your bucket, and at night only the water left in your bucket is what you use. So our battery is our reservoir. In our first class, this is part 2 of our class. In our first class, I went in depth on battery sizing. If you missed that class, it's also still available on our YouTube. You can go to our YouTube page and look around and follow up on that class. If you feel like you want to still get to know more about any of these aspects that I might not go deep in, remember you can join our WhatsApp community. We have a very vibrant community where we share updates, products, videos, and we keep everybody informed on everything. So, like I said, the battery bank is our reservoir, and then our inverter converts power from our reservoir and makes it available for us. So if you notice, I wrote the inverter and the charge controller together. So I wrote that because a lot of times with hybrid inverters, they come together, but both of them needs to be looked at as one. So now let's go to the technical side. So if you notice in the first 2 slides, which was why we need solar system and then the key components, I rushed through. So now in this next part, I'm going to take my time and be more detailed. So the next thing we have on the next slide we have, let me figure out how to share the slide. Right? So after this class, we're going to be sharing the slides, right? We're going to be sharing the slides. If it's on Google, you can also drop a link for it. So after this class, we're going to be sharing the slides so you can actually read everything that I've said in this class. So we are now in load assessment. So what's load assessment? What's load assessment? In a nutshell, remember, I'm trying to keep it simple to ensure I convey knowledge and carry everybody along. In a nutshell, load assessment is just me figuring out how much power you're consuming, right? It is the bedrock of every calculation we do here. Ensuring you have the right load assessment will ensure that we don't make mistakes in the battery sizing, the inverter sizing, and the panel sizing. So the load assessment is the information that gives us every other thing that we need. Okay, so excuse me. So load assessment. So remember, I promised you that in this class, I'm going to give you a real life example. So let us talk about our real life case scenario. So everybody can relate to maybe a 2-bedroom building, right? Everybody can relate to that. So in your case, when you're doing your own assessment, it might be for an office building, and in your case, it might be for a 5-bedroom. In your case, it might be for a bigger apartment. So because of that, I'm also going to be sharing to you the link of 2 websites where you have list of appliances. You understand? You're going to see the power rating of blenders. You see the power rating of washing machines. You see the power rating of different appliances. So using this power rating, you can also perform the same thing. So now let's talk about our example. I'm going to write a list of all the appliances in the house. You understand? So that we can now continue. Okay, so in load assessment, in doing your load assessment, there are 2 information you ask for. One, what are the appliances? And then after you confirm the appliances, so in our case, we've listed fridge, fan, 43-inch TV, 1 horsepower AC. So after that, we are going to ask ourselves the question, what quantity? How many fridges, how many fans, how many TVs? So in a 2-bedroom, let's say we have 1 fridge. Remember, it's a 2-bedroom, so there's a living room, and then 2 rooms. So we have about 3 fans, and then maybe we have just 1 TV, and then we have 1 air conditioner, right? So now I've got the first thing. I'm gonna clean. Okay, I'm gonna clean this a bit. Line 2. Want to optimize the signal. Okay, please mute your mics. Mute your mic. I'm hearing some people's mics going on. So kindly mute your mic. If you're just joining the chat, if you're just joining the web now, remember we're talking about smart system sizing, and right now you've missed nothing. We are still on load assessment. Load assessment is the first step in system sizing. Like I said earlier, load assessment is just having an idea of your total consumption, right? So you don't need to go and start looking for the sticker behind your fridge. I'm going to share to you 2 websites that have very a very comprehensive list of different appliances and their power rating. So now that's where we need the power rating. So in your situation, after writing your appliances, right? I'm gonna call it appliances. So after writing a list of appliances, remember in our example, we're talking about a 2-bedroom.
Yes, I'm going to 30. Yes, the entire world seems to be looking something extra fun. Hey, what's he saying? Oh, I was
Were you able to get it? Am I limited?
Right now.
Okay, so the first step I told you is write a list of all your appliances. Then the second step, write the quantity. How many appliances? I have one fridge, three fans, one TV, one AC. Then after that, you're going to go to the website I'm giving you, and you see a power rating for a lot of these appliances if you cannot find it on the devices. So, our fridge, watts. Remember the rating is in watts, right? Our fans, 60 watts. Our TV, 80 watts. Our air conditioner, this is an inverter AC, 990 watts, right? With the 1 horsepower inverter AC, 990 watts, right? So the first step, like I told you, the appliances, the quantity, the rating. So after that, we're going to multiply this out. Please, can I get some emojis to know if you guys are following me? Is everybody following me up till now? Is everybody following me up till now? So now after we've got our consumption like this, the next thing we're going to do is ask ourselves an honest question. How long do we use these appliances? It's an honest question because it's, well, eventually you will see. But we're going to ask ourselves, how long do we use these appliances? Some of these appliances run all day. Some can be limited to run in a portion of the day. You understand? So how long do we run these appliances? Remember, in my scenario, we have a two-bedroom system sizing, and we want to know how long we want to run these appliances. So the next thing you're gonna say hours of use, right? So I'm gonna say I'm gonna run my fans for maybe about 18 hours, right? And then my TV, I don't run it at night, and I'm not there all day. So maybe we're gonna eventually be running the TV so about 10 hours. And then the air conditioner, for instance, maybe it's in the living room and I'm not there all night. So let's just say we run the air conditioner for maybe just about 12 hours. And then the fridge, we run the fridge again for about under 15 hours. Right? So now we multiply these out.
I don't know if it's only me, but I don't seem to hear anything.
Yeah. So right now I'm multiplying the figures. So we started by putting out the appliances and we listed the quantities of each of these appliances, one refrigerator, one fridge, three fans, one television, and one air conditioner. Remember, this system sizing is just for a two-bedroom, so there's not a lot of appliances. Then the next thing is putting down the rating. I told you guys that I'm going to be sharing with you two websites that you can go and find literally any power rating for any appliance. Then after that, you now multiply the quantity with the rating, you get your first figure. Then you now ask yourself an honest question: how long do you use these appliances? So I now just hypothesize that for fridge, we use it for maybe 15 hours. That's during the day, and we'll just turn it off at night. The fans, I'm in the room most of the time, and we use the fans most of the time. So 18 hours, the TV 10 hours, the AC 12 hours. So now what we're trying to calculate is the consumption, your daily consumption. So the figure we're getting right now is our daily consumption. So these are our daily consumption. So we're trying to get our daily consumption, and then the unit of our daily consumption is in watt hour, right? So so 990 for the air conditioner, 990 watts times 12 hours of usage, we'll get 11,880. I don't know why my marker is trying to fail. Give me one moment. Let me get another marker. Yeah, on mute. Okay, so if you're just joining us, remember you can get the slides from the link, right? You can get the slides from the link. So I'm writing out this so that it's clear for everybody to see. So right now, what I'm writing out is actually your daily consumption. So this is the amount of power that you consume every day. This information is key in calculating our complete system size. So looking at this, you can see the impact of the alpha. You can see the impact. You can see the impact of the air conditioner in our system, right? So now you can see in our fridge consumes 2,250 watt hour daily. Our fan consumes all the fans, that all the three fans consume 3,000 3,240 watt hour daily. Our TV consumes 800 watt hour daily, and our air conditioner consumes 11,880 watt hour daily. So the next thing we need to calculate. So right now we've been able to do our load assessment. There are two things we must total here. We must total the consumption, that's this, and then we must total the daily consumption, the total daily consumption. So let's total those. Now I just total our consumption, our load consumption, right? I just totaled our load consumption, and then at every single point, when all our appliances are on, what we're consuming is 1,400 watts. That's when you turn on all your appliances on, what we're consuming is 1,400 watts. And in a complete day, we are consuming 18,170 watt hour, right? So this is our total daily consumption. This is our load, right? So if you're just joining us, you can get our slides on Zoom. The link for the slides have been dropped on Zoom, so you can also check it out depending on where you get seeing this video from, whether YouTube or Zoom. The slide will be either available for you one way or the other. So now we're about to go to the next slide. So now this is our load assessment. We've been able to get our total load, right? And then we've also been able to get our total daily consumption. So next, we're going to now be talking about the battery sizing. So why is the battery sizing very important? The battery sizing is very important because after the sun goes out, or when the sun is insufficient, let me add that, the battery is where you depend on, right? So we're going to be calculating our nighttime consumption to ensure that we have enough battery to see us through the night. Okay. So now I'm going to be going over to the next slide. So what is the important consideration while you're doing your battery calculation? So when you're about to calculate the amount of battery you need, the important thing to factor in is depth of discharge, right? So yes, with the advent of new batteries, with lithium batteries, depth of discharge is becoming less a very important consideration. But when we use tubular batteries, like lead acid batteries, you must know that the higher your depth of discharge, the higher the chances that your battery will not reach its lifespan. What am I trying to explain? Depth of discharge is how much power you can get out of a battery. So, for instance, lead acid batteries, you cannot get 100% out of it. It's not safe to discharge it to 100%. It's not safe. It's not recommended. It's recommended to discharge it 50%, but you can go as much as 70%. So that depth of discharge. With lithium-ion batteries, you can actually achieve 100% discharge. However, it's safe to always work with 90% depth of discharge. So that's one important consideration. So now we are moving to the battery. I'm not going to wipe this off because all the figures here are going to be important to us. While we are calculating for the battery size. So right now we're going to go to battery size. So the formula for battery sizing is not complex, right? It's a very simple thing. So all we're trying to do in battery size is know how much battery we need to power this tool, especially at night, right? Like I told you in the example I give you, I always tell my customers that your battery is like a reservoir. Think of it like a bucket, right? Every time you go to a tap to fetch water, the tap being the sun during the day to fetch water, you can only, no matter how much water is available from the tap, you can only carry what your bucket can hold at night. So if you have a small bucket, and for instance, maybe you want to wash a pile of clothes, and you only have a small bucket, after going to the tap during the day, the bucket will not be enough to do the work at night. So this is an analogy. You understand that? I'm hoping that it can help you have a good idea of the importance of the battery, right?
Are you coming or are you going?
I'm just gonna carry something.
So you can
I'm
drop
coming like
your
a fan.
comment. I might be able to see. You understand? Yes, and if you're just joining us, kindly mute your mic. Mute your mic. Okay. The formula for that is battery size.
Tell him to go be well wasted.
Kindly mute your mic. Kindly mute your mic. You're just joining.
Hi, my baby. You missed it. I saw on his hand.
It's plenty on his
I
phone.
saw. I saw.
It's plenty.
The boy no like it. I know what happened there. Why he was so cranky. Heat. That time the light switched off.
Oh, there was no
Mute your
light.
mic.
It was
So
just
it now took him time to.
Mute it. Only mute it first.
I think they're still on call.
Okay, thank you. Please kindly mute your mic so that we all can, so the rest can hear. Okay. So another important concept when you're talking about battery sizing is days of autonomy, right? A lot of times in our sizing, we neglect that. Days of autonomy means that if there's constant rain for 2 or 3 days, can your system serve? How long is your battery equipped to serve you, right? So in Nigeria, we always assume that every day will be sunny because we have a wonderful climate. But when you're doing system sizing, it's inadequate to design a system that will go down after 1 day if there's not sufficient sunlight. So it's always good to calculate with 1.5 days, that's 1.5 days of autonomy, or you can even do 2. So in my example, I'm going to be doing 1.5, but I'm going to write out the formula. So you have our load, right, in 1 hour. Then we have days of autonomy. Divided by depth of discharge, DOD. Right? So now I've written something that I've not mentioned, inefficiencies, that system inefficiencies. So we can always just make an assumption. Remember, no system is perfect, right? There's always a loss of energy. You understand? In cabling, in inverters, in your batteries, no system is perfect. So you can always assume a figure, maybe 90% efficiency or 95% efficiency in your system. So this is the formula, right? However, I'm going to teach you a simple way of doing this part so that it doesn't become complex, right? So, for instance, so right now, the load in watt hour is already calculated for us here, right? So like I told you, all the information here is important. So the load in water is here, the load is. Then our days of autonomy, we're going to be calculating 1.5, right? Then because we're going to be using a lithium-ion battery, we can assume that our depth of discharge will be 90%, that's 0.9. And then we can assume that we have a 90% efficient system, right? So we can assume we have a 90% efficient system. So let's work this out in a calculator. Anybody that has the calculator can please help us. Let's work this out quickly in a calculator. So like I explained now in the battery side, that this is the formula: load times autonomy, days of autonomy, load times days of autonomy divided by depth of discharge. Load times days of autonomy divided by depth of discharge and system inefficiency.
That potato done.
Right? So remember, this is just an assumption just to help us do the calculation. Right? So now multiplying all this out, we have so converting this 1000 watts is equal to 1 kilowatt. So this is right. So this is what we get, but however, we know that we cannot get a singular battery like this. So we can always either go higher or below. That's what you do when you see something like this. You can either go higher or below, right? So the total amount of battery size we need is 33.6 kilowatts. So either we go for a 30 kilowatt battery, either we go for a 30 kilowatt battery, or we go for 45 or 40 kilowatt. We can get 40 kilowatts. 40 kilowatt battery. So now this is how to do the battery sizing. Remember, from the beginning, we start with our appliances. From the beginning, we start with our appliances. we made a list of all our appliances, the fridge, the fan, the TV, the 1 horsepower inverter AC. Then we listed out the quantities. We said we had 1 fridge, 3 fans, 1 TV, and 1 AC. Then we would go and find the power rating for each of these and write it. Next, we have to calculate the total load. So the total load you get by multiplying the quantity and the power rating. So for instance, with the fan that is 3 in quantity, you do 3 times 60 and you get 180. You total this figure. This figure will come very important when we start talking about our inverter size, right? We total this figure, so it becomes very important when we're talking about our inverter size. Then next, we now ask ourselves an honest question of how long do we run each of these devices, right? So we say that we run the fridge for about 15 hours. We run the fan for 18 hours during the day. Our television, we run it for 10 hours during the day. And then our AC, we run it for 12 hours in the day. So now we're now talking about our daily consumption. So our daily consumption we get by multiplying the hourly consumption, the hours of use with the power of each appliance. So finally, we get our total daily consumption. So the total daily consumption every day of power is about 18,170 watt-hour. And that's how we do our load assessment. And then next we're gonna now we've done our load assessment and we have done our battery sizing. Next, we're gonna move to the solar panel sizing. So let me write that there. Remember, the example we're working with today is a 2-bedroom system sizing. So now let's talk about the solar panel sizing. The solar panel sizing. So what is important to consider when you're sizing our solar panels? It's important to take note that our solar panels do 2 jobs every day, right? Our solar panels are responsible for charging our battery while providing power to our daily consumption, right? So we already have the daily consumption. We now know our battery. For instance, if we are using a 30 kilowatt battery, we now know that this is the amount of power that we need to charge every day so that this battery gets full. And then also, if this is our low consumption, we know that the solar panel have to generate this amount of power daily to support our load, right? So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to now start calculating. So before we get into selecting which solar panel we're going to be using, we're going to now see the formula for knowing how many hours. So it's important to know that you can estimate that we have about 6 to 7 hours of effective sunlight. So I say it's called effective sunlight because the best sunlight you have is when the weather is cool. When the weather is cool and it's sunny, right? The higher the temperature, the less your solar panels would perform, right? And then the early morning sunlight that it's not really intense does not still perform very, very well. So what we calculate with is effective sunlight. So right now in our solar panel sizing, I want to calculate how many panels are necessary to charge this battery. I'll do an example for 30 kilowatts and 40 kilowatts. So how do we do that?
You're muted.
Yes, you can. You're muted. So yes, you can drop your questions. I'm gonna attend to all of them. I'm gonna be attending to all the questions. So I'm looking at the chat. Does the number of solar panels affect the power generation? Yes, the number of solar panels affect the power generation, and in a minute I'm gonna talk about that. But the reason that is one, solar panels are not 100% effective, right? Efficient, sorry, efficient. They are not 100% efficient. One. Also, the the installation angle of inclination or shading are also factors that might affect the yield of the solar panel, right? So with all these factors affecting it, the solar panel, the number of solar panels become very, very important in system sizing. So after doing the calculation right now, I'm gonna tell you the secret formula I use while doing my solar panel sizing, right? So like I told you, you have to stay at one place and do sizing for different places, sometimes without even seeing the location, right? So there are a few standards that if you maintain, you will be able to do this calculation right every single time, right? So these are the formulas I'm going to share with you. But first of all, I want to teach you how to get how many solar panels can charge this battery. So right now, lithium is very important. You hear 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt, 15 kilowatts. How many panels are necessary to charge this battery? So the first thing we're going to do is so now our hours of positive sunlight are 7 hours. So now to know how many, and then the bigger the panel, if your system will allow, the bigger the panel, the better. So for this system sizing, I'm hoping to use 600-watt panel. So you can use in your calculation, you can use 450 in your calculation, you can use 635, you can use 750 as you wish. You understand? So for this calculation, I'm going to be using 600-watt panel. So to charge a 30 kilowatt battery, 30 kilowatt is 30,000 watts. We're going to first of all divide it. So let me write out the formula first. So the formula is so I'm going to just write in a short. So what I've written there is that to calculate the amount of panels that you need to charge your battery is the battery size, in our case, is 30 kilowatts, right? That's 30,000 watts, watt hour, divided by hours of effective sunlight. And our hours of effective sunlight is 7. The truth is that in Nigeria, you can hardly get more than 7 hours of effective sunlight. 7 hours is even pushing it. If you want to be safe at home, you can do 6 hours. But in Nigeria, we have good weather. You can be guaranteed of most days of getting, on average, 7 hours of good sunlight. Okay. I'm happy that we are communicating. People are asking questions on Zoom. Yes, the class is flowing. So remember, right now we are still trying to calculate how many panels do we need to actually charge the battery. So a lot of times you bought a solar system, but every day it seems that your battery never charged. This is what you need to do. You need to actually calculate by yourself, not just what the solar technician is telling you. How many panels do I need to charge my battery? So we have a 30 kilowatt battery, right? So this is the formula of the calculation. Battery size divided by hours of effective sunlight, and we can use that as a constant, 7 hours in Nigeria, and then panel capacity. So you can use 450 watt depending on what you want, 600, 650, 700, 750, and so on. In my situation, I'm using 600 watt panels. So from this calculation right here, I'm getting 7.1, right? 7.1, this 7.1 panel, no, not watt or anything. So 7.1 pixel. So approximately, you can see that for this system, you need 7 panels. So we need 7 panels to produce. So we need 7 panels in theory. Yeah, now this is where some installers or some technicians miss it. In theory, we need 7 panels, right? But there's one thing that this formula has not factored in. I might call it it's not just the Nigerian factor because it's just normal phenomenon. One, inefficiencies. This has not factored in inefficiency. This is assuming that a 600 watt panel will produce for you 600 watts every day, always, for 7 hours. But it does not account for panel inefficiency. It does not account for the fact that your roof is sent down the rain. It's almost standing up. So the sun is not hitting the panel at the right angle, right? It's not factoring in that some panels might be shaded and you might not be getting optimal sunlight. So when I do this calculation, while trying to, from experience, and when I do this calculation, I don't, even though I know I'm going to use 600 watt panel, I don't calculate with 600 watts here. Why? Because on average, 600 watt panel will produce for you about 6% of its capacity. And it's true with all panels. No panel will produce for you. Any panel will hardly produce for you. I'm adding clauses to any panel will hardly produce for you 80%. Some panels will. But remember, you're looking at an average consumption. So a panel will, in ideal test environment, good weather, good temperature, ideal inclination, ideal test environment, yeah, you get 80% of the panel production. But remember, when you're on site, when you're in real life scenarios, it's not an ideal test environment, right? So if you can get 60%, it's an average. Remember, you have dry season in Nigeria, talking to our Nigerian customers, you have dry season, you have rainy season. So what you're looking for is an average figure. And in my own personal calculations, I use 60% of these 600 watts, right? So while I do my calculation, I assume that the panels will produce 360 watts of power. This singular act is what literally saved me in a lot of jobs, because you might purchase a panel hoping to get a particular consumption, but you will be surprised on site. You use your solar panel meter and you read and you get confused. The singular problem is not in your connection. The singular problem is that your panels might be undersized, right? And it might not be from buying fake panels. You bought the panels that are available on the market, but you've not factored in inefficiencies, wrong angle of inclination, time of the day. You've not factored in all of this. So to factor in all of this, I assume that there's a 40% loss in panel generation, and I work with 60%. So whatever panel you're using, if you're using 700 watts, you calculate 60% of 700. And if you're using a bigger panel size, you calculate that. So now using 360, that's 60% of 600 watts. I can now see that what I have is 11.9 panels to charge 30 kilowatt battery. Now, approximately so with that, I've walked you through how to do solar panel sizing. Can you come closer? Okay, so it's very clear. So right now, we've gone through the whole load assessment. We've gone through load assessment. And then after that, I took you through battery sizing so we can know the battery capacity we need. I told you that in battery sizing, days of autonomy is important. Depth of discharge is important. Days of autonomy is how many days that this system can be self-sufficient. The truth is that in Nigeria, we are not in all these climates or in all these countries where you might not see the sun a whole day. In Nigeria, every day you can be sure you will see the sun. So you can actually work with the days of autonomy of 1 day. It's not ideal, but it's possible. It's sad. Then depth of discharge. And then especially when you're working with days of autonomy 1 day, you must be careful in the system sizing because you must size the system, a panel size that does the same job every single day without a miss. So days of autonomy, depth of discharge is the level to which you can discharge your battery, and the inefficiencies just say that energy cannot be transferred for 100%. So next, after that, we've come to solar panel sizing, right? So in solar panel sizing, I told you that the formula to calculate how many solar panels are needed to charge your battery is battery size divided by hours of effective sunlight. And in my situation, I show 7 hours. It can be literally a constant because in Nigeria, you can assume we have an average hours of 7 hours. And then the panel capacity we want to use. I went further to explain to you that in my calculations, everybody can do what they want in their calculation. But in my calculation, which has proved to work for me severally, I work with 60% of whichever panel size I want to use. That guarantees me that every day I'll expect the same return. So on a day there's a lot of sunlight, I can get more. On a day that is rainy, I will get less, but I can bank on getting 60%. So using that 60%, I've calculated that what I need to charge the 30 kilowatt battery is 12 panels. So finally, the last thing we need to size is the inverter and charge controller. The inverter sizing. So now, what's important to note about the inverter? The important thing to note about the inverter is that at time, the inverter is taxed with the responsibility of carrying all the load at once. Meaning that the inverter will carry the AC, it will carry the fan, it will carry the TV, it will carry everything at once, right? That's the job of the inverter. So now, to get the correct sizing, we need to know the total load, right? And in our system, the total running power. The total running power is 1,400 watts, right? So now, now that we know that the total running power, I call it running power because we have inductive loads here, right? The inductive load are equipment that its startup power can be as high as 2 times the normal running power, right? So for instance, this air conditioner that the power is 900, this inverter AC that the power is 990 watts can have an inductive consumption of about 1.5 kilowatts. You understand? It can go up to 1,500. So to size your inverter correctly and safely, you have to factor in all of these factors, all of these components, right? So again, another thing to take into cognizance when you're doing your inverter sizing is safety factor. So the formula of inverter sizing is total load multiplied by safety factor. So in our example here, our total load is 1.4 watts. So our total load is 1.4 watts. Remember that we have inductive load like this air conditioner that the startup power can be about 2 times this. We also have the fridge that the startup power also can be 2 times this. So when we factor that in, we can now multiply it out. Excuse me. Okay. So with that, we've come to the end of our system sizing. With that, we've come to the end of our system sizing, right? With that, we've come to the end of our system sizing. So whether you're enthusiast, you can actually follow this same method and know if your system is correctly sized. So I want to give some last hints. So it's easy to assume for every bedroom, you can do your system sizing like this. That's by sizing the appliances. However, you can also do your system sizing by making an estimate, right, for the number of rooms. So if you're not very interested in this, you can always make an assumption. So a quick way of doing an estimate for someone is to ask how many rooms the person has. The typical consumption of each bedroom without an air condition is about 200 watts, right? So 2 bedrooms, 200 watt times 2, 400 watts. 3 bedrooms, 300 watts, 200 watt times 3, 600 watts. And then with that, you can now calculate all night and get the battery size. So this is how you can actually go. So we're about to close. So I've actually in this class giving you a lot of secrets on how I do my my solar system configuration, right? Which you can actually also use while doing your system size. And I want to thank everybody that's been here throughout the whole class. I want to thank everybody that's been here, Dr. Kenna. I want to thank Chiamaka. I want to thank all the users, Super Dawn, and every other person that has been here throughout the whole class. We're going to have better classes and more classes that will explain internal workings. We're going to have more classes that will explain internal workings of this solar system further and further and further away. My aim here is to help expose and bring a lot of knowledge. I can see more comments. Okay. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be doing a lot of this requests that I'm seeing on our comment section. Remember, you can always follow us and join our WhatsApp community. I'm going to be bringing this class to an end. We're about 30 minutes longer than we scheduled, but I'm happy that we've been able to get to the end of this class. Remember, in this class, I taught you how to do load assessment. In this class, I taught you how to do battery sizing, how to calculate the number of panels needed to charge your battery, and finally, how to calculate your inverter sizing. So with that, I'm going to be bringing to an end this class. We are still your favorite solar experts, PV Building Technology, and you can reach us online or offline. You can go to our website, you can download our mobile application, and you can reach us and communicate with us through any of these channels, and we're there to serve you and give you the best service you need. So with that, I'm going to be signing out. Thank you very much for being with us. For the whole board, we're going to take a picture of this and we're going to add it, upload it online, put it on the comment section so that everybody can be part of it. Thank you very much for being here, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Those people on YouTube, sorry, I've been on Zoom. To those people that join us on YouTube, thank you very much for being there. I see you. I see some of the viewers on YouTube. I see you. So thank you very much for being there. Thank you very much, everybody. We'll leave it to the